he can have a big impact, but he's going to need to be less of a high-profile figure and really go behind the scenes and do the work. You know, the problem for this administration is that they haven't really had the fundamentals of what strategic communications is all about. They haven't really been very persuasive with their arguments and moving those who are not already supporters of theirs or keeping those independent and swing voters on their side. They haven't been very creative about how they've reached out, nor have they been very inspirational at times. There's no integration and coordination of the many different voices that they have. And finally, they've had no sustained message at all. They really have not been able to kind of move this forward. So, you know, what they call message discipline takes a lot of behind the scenes work with the many, many different voices and forces that are going on. If he's ready to sort of buckle down and do that and help President Trump and the White House get on that task, he can be successful. But if what he's going to be doing is kind of traipsing around to the different shows and whatnot, it's hard to do both of those things at the same time.
And your expectation is that he is going to be more of a spokesman or more of a behind-the-scenes person? The way he at least described it on Friday was that he was going in front of the cameras now, but that he planned to turn that duty over.
Well, yeah, if that's what he does, then that'll be great. Of course, there's another piece of this that really has to fall in place. No communications director can really do his or her job well without a really strong, focused chief of staff, White House chief of staff. And it does raise questions, of course, because Scaramucci came in without Reince Priebus really agreeing to it or approving it. That's really where all this starts. Of course, it starts with the president, but the president has to have confidence in the people in those key roles in order for this to work.
Don, who did you report to? Did you report directly to the president?
No, I reported to Leon Panetta when I was White House Chief of Staff, and I had come in originally. I was the chief speechwriter, and I reported to Mac McClarty and then to Leon, and then I moved up to be communications director.
And
but,
so,
you know,
if you were to look at a chart, if you were to look at an org chart, where Anthony is now reporting directly to the president, how does that change the dynamic? Or do you think that that was intended to effectively force Priebus to resign?
Boy, the tea leaves are not great for Priebus, it seems to me. I don't see how a chief of staff can agree to run the White House without having that communications function reporting to him or her. It just doesn't work. It won't work. But that's true of all the key functions, you know, other than sort of the top policy jobs. The fact is, it shouldn't matter, right? All these reporting authorities shouldn't matter. When I was there, I had free reign to work with the president. The president would call me in to do what we had to do on whatever it was, and there was complete transparency with the chief of staff's office. We all knew that we were on the same team. And that's not to say there weren't a lot of divisions in the Clinton White House. Those, we know about those. There are in every White House. But the fact of the matter is, all of this reporting on the ups and downs and the intrigue of what's happening, you know, in the halls of the West Wing is such a distraction right now. The real challenge that they have is, and this is why the president now has only a 36% approval rating, among other reasons, it doesn't feel like they're focused on the concerns of the American people. It seems like they're focused on the concerns of all of the people inside the White House.
And that may come about in terms of the focus on the American people through better messaging. Don, I'm just curious, from what you can see from Anthony Scaramucci's, you know, so-called chess moves so far, does it look like he's gunning for chief of staff or some other position?
It's hard for me to judge on that. I mean, I see there's some reporting out today that his name may be on the list, and it sure seemed to me like maybe he was being put in place to move forward into that. There aren't a lot of other big names out there yet if Priebus is on his way out. And, you know, Gary Cohn has been mentioned, but he's got a pretty big portfolio with the Economic Council. So, sure. I mean, of course, Scaramucci has not worked in government before. He's sort of barely worked in politics. But he's been around, and if Donald Trump trusts him and thinks he's going to be a change agent for him inside that White House, maybe he'll be one of the guys who'll be considered.
Hey, Don, I know you're on the other side of the aisle when it comes to the president and the administration, but if you could
aisles here.
If you could take that hat off for a second and just put yourself in the corporate hat that you have now, and let's pretend for a moment that you're taking the president on as a client. If you were sitting with him, you would tell him what?
Well, I would tell him just what I said to you before, but here's what I would tell him. If I were going back and looking at last week and thinking about that New York Times interview, whatever it was, 50-minute interview on the record in which he talked about all kinds of things and not about the American people, about what he's there to do for them, about how he's moving an agenda forward, You know, what a wasted opportunity. What a wasted chance to really sort of send the signal to the country that we're about your business, not about monkey business. And I think that if I were advising him, I would say, let's get on message, let's stick on message, let's decide what our agenda is and how we're going to move it forward in a very steady, sustained way without all the tweets.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.